Hey, this is William Baxter.
I'm Paul Bill.
And we are heading to Orlando, where we're going to see Halloween Horror Nights 25. This will be my first time going to Halloween Horror Nights. But I guess while we're on the subject of Halloween, and by the way, we've got this on the road.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit about John Carpenter's Halloween. So I had to say, Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, I think was one of the scariest yet funnest movies of all time that I've ever watched. So
I'd definitely rank it up there with the original Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah.
It worked really well.
Yeah, I had to say that I remember the first time I saw Halloween was at my Aunt Kay's house, and I was sitting there watching it with my my cousins and everything, and their friends, and I really didn't catch on what it was, but for some reason I thought, even as a young, I was about 8 years old, I thought this was a very interesting movie, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, the music will haunt you forever, and because it's that good and everything. It makes the movie. It's one of the few movies, horror movies and everything, where the score makes the movie, and it was done by the director John Carpenter himself. So,
which is a man, you know, almost as good as, you know, Wes Craven in my book. I do prefer Wes Craven, but John Carpenter just had his fingers on the pulse of horror. You know?
Yes.
He just had the ability to really, you know, draw your attention in with that score. You pay attention, you know, the high pitch of it drew you in.
Yeah.
And then from there, every jump, everything from there just was part of that score.
Oh yeah. But when it comes to the making of it and everything, this was John Carpenter's. This was his, I believe it's his third film. He had just got over the minor success of Assault on Precinct 13. A few producers and everything were wondering, you know, what would make it a great scary movie, and they realized, well, the name Halloween hasn't been used, so they went ahead and that theme had not been used either in movies, so they went ahead and decided, well, we're going to make a movie about Halloween. So what they did is that they got with John Carpenter and everything, and he was like, yeah, I'll be doing it and everything.
Yeah.
So he got with his former assistant and everything, now co-screenwriter, Deborah Hill, who ended up herself becoming one of the big Hollywood producers in that industry. At the time, they were dating, and they worked together on making wrote the screenplay. Now, what she did, she wrote about, you know, the girl stuff and being a babysitter herself. You know, she knew, you know, the myth and the urban legends that came along with, you know, being a babysitter. I have to say, John Carpenter, when it came to the suspense, he had mentioned about going to visiting psych wards and seeing people give off that stare, the schizophrenic stare, which, you know, even creeped John Carpenter out. And that's, you know, people with schizophrenia, you know, that's a little scary. Those people can be scary.
It's not even just schizophrenia.
Yeah.
I mean, you catch people with there's this new craze going around, you know, resting murder face.
Yeah.
You know? And basically what it is just that 1,000-yard stare, somebody looking right through you, breaking you down. You know, it's an unsettling feeling, you know, it brings a chill to your blood. Just, you know, perfect thing to capitalize on in the Halloween franchise.
Oh yeah. So so they went ahead and they wrote the screenplay and everything, and originally it was going to be called The Babysitter Murders. And of course, you know, they just didn't sound good. You know, it sounded like something a Lifetime movie would have been.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they said, let's just call it Halloween. And John Carpenter's like, that's fine and everything, as long as I get my name above the title. So they went off and they started making this very small independent film. They got financing from a gentleman named Mustafa Akay. I think I'm saying that right. He eventually became the godfather of Halloween. But they got finance from him, and the company, the production company decided, you know, let's get some we at least got to get one big name actor. And Carpenter's original choice for the character Dr. Loomis was for Peter Cushing, who played Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars Episode 1, and he did a lot of Dracula movies. So it just, he said no, and then he interviewed Donald Pleasence. And Donald Pleasence, he asked Donald Pleasence, like, well, what made you interested in doing this? He's like, my daughter loved the music from your previous film, which was the music from Assault on Precinct 13, which is a really cool score. But what happened was Donald Pleasence ended up, making the wise decision and everything. He was employed for at least the next almost 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So they went ahead. The character of Dr. Loomis was named after the character Sam Loomis, some psycho, which really made a lot of inspiration to Halloween by Carpenter, because it was one of Carpenter's favorite films. He was basically a kind of a student of Hitchcock type of film and everything. If you ask me, anybody is a student of Hitchcock.
Oh yeah.
And then they went ahead.
Master of horror.
Yep. They also cast P.J. Souls, who was starting to become an upcomer in a lot of teen flicks back in those days. And then they also got Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis' daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
Her parents were Hollywood royalty for many years, and her mother was Janet Leigh, who was the woman in the shower in Psycho. So,
which some would say it's a precursor right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say it was genetic casting. She was just tailor-made for this role.
Oh yeah. So Jamie Lee Curtis became the original Scream Queen.
Oh yeah.
Because of this film. So everything got cast and everything. There was a lot of great character actors that were added in this movie. So what transpired was that they spent a few weeks filming in Pasadena, and it was like a little communion type of a group of a community that making this little film. I mean, nobody really thought too much about this film, thought that it was going to do anything. A gentleman named Nick Castle, who was a former college buddy of John Carpenter's, who eventually would go on and co-write Escape from New York with John Carpenter and film and be the director of the film The Last Starfighter, was actually the Michael Myers character. So let's get into the plot. The plot was, at the beginning of the movie, you see this young lady and her boyfriend. They're kind of messing around, and they go up the stairs, and then suddenly you get this POV version of a person's point of view, kind of going around the house and everything, and they pick up a mask, and then they're kind of creeping around the house. Boyfriend comes downstairs, says, yeah, I'll see you later. And the figure, with the mask on and everything, walks upstairs and walks into the girl's room, seeing her brush her hair. The girl turns around, obviously she knows who the person is. She says, Michael. And then the person ends up, stabbing her repeatedly. Once she's passed out on the floor, dying, bleeding to death, the figure runs downstairs, runs out the door, and then, two adult figures come out of a car, and obviously it must be the parents, and you start seeing how the parents are starting to look down, further down and everything. You realize that this is not a grown-up person that just stabbed this girl. And, like, Michael, and then they go to reach for the hand, kind of like this, or reach for the mask, and then, they pull it off, and it reveals it's a little boy holding a knife. And the camera zooms back. This is one of the first films and everything that used the Panavision type glide cams and everything, which made freedom for they get wear this harness and everything, and they get to hold the camera like that. It's one of the first times the camera got used freely without being constructed down onto a dolly and everything like that. So that's one of the innovations about this film and everything. It was one of the first films to use it, and they had this really beautiful crane shot and everything, pulling back and everything, and the little boy holding the knife, and then it goes black, and then after that it's like a had to say about 15 years later or something like that.
Yeah, just about.
And you see it's raining, and Dr. Loomis is in a type of kind of a, I'd have to say, what is it, station wagon.
Yeah.
And he's got a nurse driving him, and they're heading to a mental institution. And they're talking about, like, you know, so you don't want this guy ever released or anything like that. And he's like, never, no. You know. So they're just talking briefly, and they get up to the gates and everything, and they see that there's people standing out there. It's the inmates standing out in the middle of the rain. And he's like, you stay here, I'm gonna call in. So he goes to the phone by the gate, and then suddenly you see a figure crawling up back of the station wagon, and the car starts getting shaken up a little bit, and you know, he's trying to grab the nurse and everything, and the mystery person tries to jump in the car, and he drives away. And then Sam Loomis knows right away that it's Michael Myers that's has driven off and got away. So the cut back, it's Smith Grove, Illinois, a fictional town, and you know, it's Halloween Eve, and Jamie Lee Curtis's character is, you know, going around and just walking on the sidewalk and everything. She starts talking to the little boy who she's going to be babysitting that night, and then she leaves the keys at this old ghost house. It's this spook house where the young lady Judith Myers died. Where by then it had become like a little urban legend to most of the kids and everything. Nobody, you know, like a ghost story. So she goes off, leaves the keys, and then you see that inside the house there's somebody there. So obviously Michael Myers has come home, and we believe that, you know, because this girl dared to walk on his front doorstep and everything, he's going to follow her now. So he pretty much follows her all over the place. You end up meeting her friends. Her friends are, one's a ditzy blonde who's, you know, and the other one's kind of a ballsy chick. And Jamie Lee Curtis' character is basically the blueprint of the innocent virgin girl that's always in his horror films. So, and that does become a staple in a lot of films.
It does. It led to the whole "if you have sex, you die" in horror movies rule.
Yeah. So, but I have to, you know, there was, you know, a lot of references between one of the girls, you know, the one that was the more ballsy girl and everything. Her dad ends up being the sheriff of Haddonfield. It's not Smith Road, it's Haddonfield. I'm sorry. Shame on me and my Halloween mess up. But it was, I mean, some people would probably think that the beginning of this film is really slow. So, but, you know, it's all set up. And it all pays off there at the end of the film. What happens is that Sam Loomis and everything, Dr. Loomis, goes, you know, trying to, talking to the head of the insane asylum, you know, basically telling you, I told you so. I warned you about this guy. So he decides to take it upon himself that he's going to search for Michael Myers because he knows him better than anybody. So he goes off into his trek and everything, and as time goes on and everything, he finds a tow truck pulled over to the side and everything, sees that there's a garb and everything that Michael Myers is wearing, like a hospital gown, and off in the distance you see a body that's laying in the off in the distance and everything, where I'm sure he didn't see, but it goes to show and everything that you know, you got to look for the little details in John Carpenter films and everything. You got to see those little details and everything to know why does he got those overhauls and everything. Where did he get those? He got it from the guy who was driving a tow truck. Yeah. So to skip over and everything, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis and her friend's character Laurie Strode, and then there was her friend who was the sheriff's daughter. She it was Annie was her name. They're driving up and they're smoking a joint, and then they come up downtown and they happen to notice that her dad's there at this little In-N-Out store, a little department store, and you know, they're kind of worried that maybe he smells it, but you know, he pays no attention. And you know, he says someone stole the Halloween mask and a couple knives and stuff like this. So that kind of gives you a hint, like, well, now we know this guy's armed. So they get to the houses and everything, and I said it's a little bit slow. Show Jamie Lee Curtis being the good babysitter and everything, and then all of a sudden, talking to the little boy. The little boy's scared of Halloween. He's still at that age where all the the myths and the urban legends and everything.
He's at that age that monsters are real.
And the boogeyman is like, the thing that he's worried about. So what happens was, as she's going along and everything, she kind of looks over across the side of the road and everything, just to check on the other house where her friend is babysitting another kid, a little girl. And then all of a sudden, the sheriff's daughter, Annie, gets a phone call from a boyfriend. Like, okay, well then I'll come over and get you and everything, And then she decides to lead the other boyfriend, or lead the girl with Jamie Lee Curtis, since Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't have a life, or a sexual life, that is. So she agrees to it and everything, and Annie goes back to her house to go drive and get in the car and drive to pick up her boyfriend. Well, Michael Myers is waiting for her in her car and takes her out. And after that, nothing's really said or seen and everything. The little boy over there with Jamie Lee Curtis is trying to spook the little girl that's there with them, and he kind of looks out the window and everything, and he sees Michael Myers carrying Annie across the yard into the house and everything, and it scares him and everything, and he's trying to tell Jamie Lee Curtis he saw the boogeyman. Of course, Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie just dismisses it, and they just carry on the rest of the night. Then PJ Soul's character and her boyfriend, a little drunk and possibly a little stoned, come walking right on into the the house and everything, not knowing what's going on, and they're waiting for Annie and her boyfriend. So as the whole thing goes and everything, Michael Myers is kind of off in the distance. You don't see his face or the mask or anything. You kind of see his shoulder, or the shadow overpowering them while they're making out on the couch. And they decide to go upstairs. Since there's no adult supervision or anything like that, nobody seems to be around. They take it upon themselves to go up to one of the master bedrooms and do what they have to do. And so, lo and behold, they go and do their thing. Boyfriend goes downstairs. Michael Myers, attacks him and stabs him, and does a pretty good job, because he pretty much takes a big butcher knife and stabs him right into the wall, and just leaves him dangling there, which is a very monumental, moment in this franchise, because this movie doesn't have little to no blood. And that's what makes it really cool. People forget, the original Halloween doesn't barely have any blood in it at all. So, and then he comes back up, and then, sees that, wears his cloth over his head, covers over his head, wearing the glasses and everything. And, she's kind of getting, the girlfriend's kind of getting a little spooked out and everything. But she's like, well, fine, then just don't talk to me. And she goes off to try to call the phone and everything, and call Jamie Lee Curtis's character. And then next thing you know, Michael Myers, comes up to her and then takes the phone cord and chokes her, and basically chokes her out and everything, kills her. And Jamie Lee Curtis is like, haha, whatever, you guys are having phone sex on me and everything, and just totally ignores it and everything. And the PJ Soul characters is taken out. So all her friends so far have been taken out. She looks out the window just kind of out of curiosity and sees that all the lights go off. So out of that, she kind of gets a little suspicious what's going on, but still dismisses it. And goes about entertaining the kids. Where was I? So during that time, Dr. Loomis is off at the Myers house, staying there and everything, waiting to see if Michael will return. Until he realized, then he decides he's going to wander around the neighborhood. By this time, he's already gotten with the sheriff and told him about the guy who got loose, that was Michael Myers. And they start walking around the neighborhood, checking things out. And as time goes on, he discovers that the station wagon for the insane asylum and everything is right there in that parking lot the whole time, or in the neighborhood. So he finally bumps into the chief or the sheriff and everything, and tells him he's here. I see the car. We gotta do a perimeter one more time. So Dr. Loomis was wandering around. During this time, Jamie Lee Curtis's character finally decides she's gonna go over to the house where her friend Annie was at, and she starts wandering around the house trying to see what's going on. Well, she walks into the bedroom. She finds Annie laying on a bed. Looks like her throat slashed, and this tombstone that says Judith Myers. Apparently, Michael yanked the thing out of the ground.
Yeah.
And because earlier in the film, Dr. Loomis and everything goes over to see Judith Myers' grave, and that tombstone's missing. So now we know what happened to that tombstone. And then she, out of shock and everything, she walks back and everything, and then her friends are being basically displayed and everything. They're shown as trophies and everything. And she wanders out of the room, kind of shocked, crying and everything. And one of the coolest lighting techniques you've ever seen in motion pictures. She's standing at this doorway, walking kind of slowly back to the bedroom and everything. And very slowly, you see this light just kind of starting to shine up, and it's revealing Michael Myers' mask. Which people don't know, Michael Myers' mask was originally a William Shatner Star Trek mask from the 1970s. All they did was dye the skin, bleached it white, and colored the hair and cut the eyes open a little bit more to give it a faceless shape. So, again, William Shatner, we all know, is the power that Hollywood reigns. So, William Shatner's everything, right? I'm a Star Trek fan, so I'm sorry. Anyway.
Patrick Stewart sees this, you're going to hell.
He's the yin to William Shatner's yang.
That just sounds dirty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they would like that.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway.
It'll end up being, Picard's new, what do they call those, memes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, anyway, what happens is that, Michael Myers goes after her, he slices her arm, she falls down the steps, and all she does is, break her ankle or something. Most people would probably have broken a leg, but, she hobbles back over to the other side. She's lost the key. She gets to the house, she finds out she lost the key. She's banging on the door, and, the kids, already in bed and everything, trying to, what's going on? She's like, open the door! Okay, that kid, if that was me and everything, I'd be busting through that door. If I had some, crazy, knowing my luck, I'd probably have been killed, within the first frame of the film, if it went that way. So we go, and she gets in the house, the kids are scared, she's like, tell them to go, she's trying to tell them to go hide. So she's trying to prepare for Michael to maybe break through the door. Come to find out, one of the windows are left open in the house. So he's basically
conscientious about security. She really is.
Yeah. Sneaks in somehow and goes along with a couple of these attacks. She attacks him with a needle and thread type of thing for a crochet set. And then she gets back up to where the kids are heading away, and she tells them that I've killed the boogeyman. You don't have to worry about it. They're like, you can't kill the boogeyman. And then they notice that he's standing at the edge of the steps and everything, looking at them. So she goes and takes the kids, hide them in a closet. Then she hides herself in another closet. And of course, Michael Myers starts, walking slowly to the closet that she's hiding in. And he, with the knife, starts bashing through, the doors of the very weak doors and everything. Goes through the doors and everything, and she quickly takes a hanger, and has the time to unravel this hanger and make it into a weapon. And this is some really quick MacGyver shit. And then she takes
MacGyver ain't got nothing on the screen.
Oh no. And then she goes and he gets his head in range. She takes the thing and pokes him in the eye. He drops the knife. She grabs it and stabs him in the gut or somewhere in the stomach. He falls. Well, after that and everything, She goes and gets the kids out of there, out of the closet and everything. She drops the knives before that and everything, and then the kids are like scared to death, obviously, and they're like, "What do you want us to do?" She's like, "I want you to go to the neighbor's house and everything, scream and holler all you can, and tell them to call the cops." Well, they go and do that, and they run out of the house screaming and hollering, and that gets Dr. Loomis's attention. He just happens to be walking past that house, and he kind of looks at them walking, running away, and he knows, well, I better go check this out. This could be it. She gets up very slowly, and one of the coolest scenes, and the music and everything, this is when the music really, really hits in, is that she stands up, and off in the backdrop you see Michael Myers' body still laying there, and he does what people call, the Undertaker sit-up, which, once he sits right up, turns his head, the music goes dun-dun, dun-dun, and it just, everything just right there, the movie really kicks in. And then I had to give credit to John Carpenter and everything, for a horror film, it really, it was slow at the beginning, but the tension built up, and what kept this going with the tension, it was always the music. John Carpenter's score for this film and everything is just classic, and when it comes to the Halloween theme, it now surpasses the song Chopsticks, when it comes to learning how to play the piano for most students. It's, as I said, I have the soundtrack at home. I love that song. I play it every Halloween when it comes to my decorations from the family, and I go off to do trick-or-treating. I play that Halloween song, and we never have any incidents. Once that song's playing around my neighborhood, and I play full blast and everything, people stay clear of my house, so... so that helps out a lot, especially...
I just figured it'd be your dogs.
Huh?
I just figured it'd be your dogs.
No, not my dog. Well, maybe my old dogs and everything. My other dogs, they're just big wusses. But, so, Michael Myers gets up, she starts walking away in the hallway, and he jumps up behind her and starts choking her. And then, while she's struggling and everything, she rips his mask off, and you briefly get it's the only time you ever see Michael Myers' true face and everything in this whole series and everything, is when she rips his mask off, and he's kind of got a plain look and everything. It's like people want to know what's under that mask, and it's just a human being that for some reason has this evilness, pure evil that's inside of him, that's possessed him. So he puts the mask back on. At this time, Loomis has made it to the top of the stairs. He puts the mask on, he shoots him twice, and then he gets thrown back. And then Loomis comes back into the room where Michael had fallen into, and Michael's standing there still, like unfazed. And Loomis takes and unloads the gun into Michael's chest and everything. Michael falls right over a balcony onto the grass. He looks over at Lori, and she goes, "It was the boogeyman, wasn't it?" He goes, "As a matter of fact, it was." And this right here will test pure acting ability when it comes to Donald Pleasence, because Donald Pleasence, had given John Carpenter, the director, the choice how to react when he goes to look over that balcony. Because when he looks over to that balcony, Michael is gone, no trace. You see a little bit of an outline, but there's no trace of him at all. And Donald Pleasence can have this look of not surprised at all, or pure, utter, freaking out shock. And Donald Pleasence kind of had this calm look of, I knew this was going to happen. This is going to take more than just bullets to kill this man. And I tell you what, that right there was a sign of how well of an actor Donald Pleasence was. And Donald Pleasence ended up doing a lot of Carpenter films and a lot of great films. I can't say enough about Donald Pleasence. One of my favorite top 10 actors ever. So what happens is, they start playing the music, the Halloween theme. He's just kind of looking like this when he's standing at the balcony. And for some reason, John Carpenter decided to go back to pivotal moments in that, few moments and everything, that last 20 minutes of the film, and pivotal moments where certain points of where she or Michael Myers had made an impact or killing or something like that. and then you start hearing Michael Myers' breathing, like the sound he would make while he's breathing with a mask on his, and it was eerie knowing that he's everywhere now. And I'm sure and of course it got left off as a cliffhanger. They never intended this movie to be a sequel, and they never intended this movie to be a huge blockbuster. I mean, when it debuted very low in the box office, but word of mouth got this movie to the popularity that it ended up being. And this movie, I mean, shattered a lot of records, and this became also became a Halloween tradition. This movie got played a lot during Halloween time in theaters when they used to re-release movies in theaters and everything before the advent of video and cable and DVDs and so on and so on. But I mean, for me, I love this movie. It is a big recommendation, especially
classic.
Yes, especially
instant classic.
I mean, it goes right up there next to Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. You know, those old era style. You know, it's part of the renaissance of horror films.
Oh, yeah.
And I highly recommend this film. Highly recommend this soundtrack. And, you know, just to have the soundtrack alone helps. Just, you know, it's just one of my all-time favorites. And again, you know, it for the longest time, it was the highest-grossing independent film of all time until Blair Witch Project came out in '99, almost 20 years later. And of course, you know, they generated so many sequels, which I'm sure we'll touch on later on. And then, unfortunately, you know, I think it was 2009, they made a remake. I'm not knocking Rob Zombie, but we'll get into that some other time. But it generated sequels, merchandise galore.
Michael Myers became another iconic character in horror.
I mean, modern day horror film.
Name right up there with Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees.
Yes, Leatherface and Pinhead.
Yeah.
I mean, those were basically our universal monsters of that time. Because New Line Cinema and Dimension Films gave us, you know, a lot of great, you know, new icons to enjoy when it comes to the realm of horror films. You know, again, you know, in our time and everything, it was Jason, Freddy, Pinhead, Leatherface, Michael Myers, Ghostface from Scream, and you know, I said those right there are, you know, are just, you know, iconic characters. And Michael Myers, honestly, if you ask me, I think he was the forefather of all that and everything. And I think, you know, right there, Halloween is one of the best, if not one of the top 5 best horror films of all time. So I highly check it out, especially around this time of the year. I mean, if you're living in, you know, if you know where you can go see it in theaters, definitely go see it in theaters. And, you know, as I said, it is great to play at parties. And if, you know, I just wish Netflix would play it.
Oh yeah.
So, but highly recommend it. I know there's 2 Halloween movies, you know, the later sequels, Resurrection and Curse of Michael Myers. Which, by the way, you know, if you're ever going to see the Curse of Michael Myers, go rent the producer or buy the producer's cut of that movie. It's an even much better film than the original theatrical version of Halloween 6. But we'll touch back on that later. So, for the William Baxter Experience, this has been the Retro Review Show. I'm William Baxter.
I'm Paul Bell.
And we are driving again to Orlando, Florida, to the Universal Studios on Halloween Horror Nights 25. And we'll even have a review of that, too, and a few pictures here and there. So take it easy and wish us good luck and make sure that we don't get in any fender benders.
I got a tire on.
There we go. Take it easy, folks.
Later.